Okay, everyone. So we're gonna officially start off on our summer 2026 intern panel. My name is Kayla Carrillo. I'm one of the career advisors for the Creative Careers team. So I will be sort of leading this discussion today. I'm joined by Jessica Susilo and Reina Lee. If you guys could quickly introduce yourselves.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jessica. I'm in graphic design. I'm in term five, and yeah, I'm excited to be with you guys.
Thank you, Jessica.
Hello, everyone. I'm Reina, and I'm an interaction design student. I'm in fourth term. I'll be starting my fifth term this fall. And yeah, nice to meet you, everyone.
Thank you, Reina. So thank you so much for these two for joining us today. We're going to kind of quickly go over the agenda for our time together. So, as we just did introductions, we're going to be going into a little bit of the ins and outs of what an internship kind of entails, the search process, the application process. And then for any of those who are interested in the for-credit internship registration process, we'll be going over that, followed by a Q&A, in which I will be asking this panelists a couple questions, and then we will have a sort of Q&A for the students to ask any of the panelists questions. And then we're going to be closing it out. So kind of going over what is an internship, right? So it's a experiential learning opportunity to gain, professional and industry experience. It's a great opportunity for you to be able to assess what you want out of your career, maybe out of like a professional workspace. It's a way to gain connections, grow your network, meet people from different sort of focuses and industries, utilizing your experiences, your skill sets that you're growing within your time at ArtCenter or maybe even outside of ArtCenter, learning what it means to be a professional within a space. I think is a really great advantage to an internship experience as well. So, in terms of the topic of why it's important to be preparing for internship searching and applications, is kind of going over these three items, is like searching for opportunities, preparing your application materials, tracking your materials or your applications, and interviewing. So these are sort of like the four main components of like this sort of internship 101 idea. And we're going to be going over a little bit more in depth. Um, the sort of timeline to give you a sense of how you could be preparing for this during your time at Art Center. I know a lot of you guys were fifth term, which is a really great time to be starting this like preparation piece. So just to kind of quickly go over what this could look like, preparation, it could involve meeting with someone like me from the team. Any of our advisors would be a really great resource for you to guys to go over your materials, to assess if there are different avenues for you to be able to maybe gain information on potential opportunities that could come to you. Um, Again, reviewing resumes, portfolio, cover letter, any sort of internship or application material, how to network and how to outreach to people as well. In terms of going over searching and applying, obviously this requires researching who would be the best or best studio, best place for you to gain an internship. So this might look like asking your peers if they like our two panelists here, like what companies they were looking into, what their sort of internship search process looked like. Searching on job boards, obviously, is a big one. LinkedIn, any company websites, asking peers, asking your faculty, anything like that. And obviously, within the topic of asking people, that goes back into the networking piece and the outreach piece, right? Um, and sort of this third sort of component of this timeline is interviewing and receiving offers. So after you've obviously applied, you hopefully get an interview. Um, we have the opportunity to practice interviewing with one of the members of our team, including myself. We could go over questions you could be asked, how to answer questions, how to navigate post-interview, um, and actually like kind of going over how to articulate your thoughts in a way that is really helpful for the person that you're communicating with to get a sense of like what your competencies are and what you could bring to the table. Um, Obviously, we want you guys to get an internship offer, so going over maybe negotiation if that comes into place. For those of you who are interested in the registration process for your internship for credit, it's meeting with your faculty to develop your learning objectives, gathering your materials for the registration application, which is your offer letter, your degree audit, and your I-20 if you are an international student. Um, and sort of like this final piece is the reflection and repeat cycle of reflecting on your experience, applying and searching for opportunities, maybe reflecting on the registration process. If you're thinking ahead of like, hey, I want to actually do an internship again and get credit for this again, reflecting on like maybe what you could do differently to help you have like a more seamless experience. Fostering, the connections you make within an internship opportunity, utilizing your arts in our community, and then continuing that process of preparing, searching, applying, interviewing, and hopefully getting maybe another internship or maybe a full-time role. So this is sort of like the general timeline I want you guys to be thinking of as we're sort of going through this discussion with our panelist, which will be happening in a little bit. I just have a little bit more information to cover. So, in terms of the registration process for internship for credit, these are sort of the main components I wanted to highlight very quickly. So, for eligibility, undergraduate students have to have a minimum of 70 credits and a minimum of a 2.5 GPA. Graduate students need to have a minimum of a 30 credit and a minimum of 3.0 GPA. So again, if any of you are international students and are hoping to get internship for credit, you need to have your um, CPT authorization form processed by International Student Services. And the main criteria for if an internship is eligible is that it needs to be a minimum of 10 weeks. And that 10 weeks must fall within the academic term. So, example, we're in summer, it has to fall within 10 weeks of the summer term. So the summer term already started, right? Today was officially the first, or yesterday was officially the first day. So as long as it's within those 10 weeks, it should be good to go. 3 units has, in order to qualify for 3 units, you have to work at a minimum of 12 hours a week or about 126 hours for the term. And 6 units is a minimum of 24 hours per week and 252 hours per the term. One thing to know is that, you know, the deadline for the registration process is this Friday. So if any of you guys are hoping to, on the call, get an internship for credit done, this will all be done in Connect. I would highly recommend that you guys complete this as soon as possible to prevent any delays in the processing of these things. The total complete grading requirements are due the Friday of week 13. And if needed, you guys could definitely meet with anyone from Creative Careers for support. And then just a general note is that tuition will be charged for per unit of credit that is earned, and internships are graded on a satisfactory or unsatisfactory basis. So with that, I will be jumping into the panelist discussion. So Jessica and Reina, you guys already introduced yourself, but just to give a little bit more context into their background and what their internship experience has been like. Jessica is a graphic design student who did their internship at Bedrock Asia Brand Consultancy, which is in Jakarta, Indonesia. So it was actually an international internship experience. So we're excited to learn a little bit more about what that could look like. And then Reina was interaction design with handers. So with that, we'll be jumping into our questions. Jessica and Reina, either of you guys could answer the first question first, but what did the internship application process look like, and how many like internships did you apply for before you heard back? So any of you guys could answer first.
Yeah, for me, I was basically scouting in LinkedIn like everyone else. I was also networking with some alums. I was networking with job recruiters. And yeah, I eventually found Bedrock through LinkedIn. I was preparing my portfolio, my resume, my cover letter as usual. And eventually I reached out to their HR manager. And eventually, because of my initiatives towards them, that kind of led me to their interview. And so, yeah, that basically led me to getting the job there.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I think it was a little bit different because at the time, last year, I thought myself wasn't really fully ready to do the internship. So, like I was just thinking to maybe I should do some project to improve myself. And, like I was constantly networking with people to get a future opportunity, but I wasn't fully ready. But one of my ex-coworker reached out to me, and then she really valued me highly as a designer. So she introduced me to the CEO she know. So he became my, like my CEO for my internship. So after she introduced me to him, I reached out to him directly, and then I submitted my resume and the portfolio for him to review. And then he got back to me after reviewing those, and we went through some, casual talk. I wouldn't say it's like a formal interview with multiple rounds, but it was just like a informal interview. And then after that, I was offered for the internship.
Wow, that's very different, very two different experiences. But sort of like leaning into our next question, which is, I know Reina, you kind of just covered like the interview process. It was a
Yeah.
little bit more informal. Um, could you speak to a little bit of, because it was in a more informal process, like how you felt in terms of like that discussion? Like, did you feel prepared to be in that discussion? Um, Going over like an sort of informal interview, and like how long did it take for you to hear back about you being offered the role?
Yeah, sure. Like even though she introduced me to the CEO, I don't think I was the only applicant to that internship. So I submitted, like the paperwork, like I mentioned, the resume and portfolio. And initially they sent me a question list. I think they were really going through like early phases of the startup business. So they didn't really have like a lot of people to do like an interview and then make a time for it. So they sent me the question list through the email. So I responded with my answer. And, like I expected um, that's not going to be it. So I kind of like prepared myself for this another round of the like, Zoom interview. So I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials of how to present myself. And I was very nervous about, even though it's informal, it was my first time doing the interview. So I was very nervous. So I kind of like tried to search like how to talk in the, like interview kind of things like that. So yeah, I definitely prepared myself. And yeah, and then it took me like a week to hear back from them, I think. Yeah, including all those, like paperwork and then the interview. Yeah.
Hmm, awesome, thank you. Jessica, what was your interview process like, and how long did it take you to hear back from your company?
I think similarly to Reina, it was more towards a step-by-step process. It seems like Bedrock was really familiar with student interns, and so they were pretty open to students. So they just let me with an interview, and then they basically asked questions like, "How would you stand out as an intern and how would you contribute and approach problem solving? And most importantly, why would I be valuable to their company? And so that was kind of what the interview process looked like in person with them. And yeah, similar to Reina again, it took about 1 week or so to come back.
Awesome. So definitely two different sort of types of experiences, but overall you guys were very prepared going into it, which is awesome. Um, so kind of steering the conversation a little bit to the for credit registration. For both of you guys, because you did just do the for credit registration for this past spring, how was your experience doing the process for registering your internship for credit? When did you start the process for the registration? And then for Reina, like what was the process of getting the CPT authorization for your I-20 paperwork?
Yeah, so for me, I have a lot of things to talk about this. So I did 2 terms of internship with Hendiers. So at first it was a little confusing for me because, like I tried to read through all the requirements on ArtCenter Connect to redeem my credits, but I think there was like a misunderstanding I did. So I requested the CPT authorization to the enrollment service, and it didn't take that long for me to hear back from them. I submitted the offer letter and the times that I will work, and they just processed it like within like not even 2 days. Like I think it was really quick, like few hours to like a one day, I think. Yeah, so the CPT registration was pretty easy, but what I missed was I had to submit another form to the Art Center Connect to redeem my credit. So I
Mhm.
missed that part, and in week 14, I figured it out. The internship wasn't registered on my curriculum on inside Art Center. So I was very like frustrated and I wasn't sure what was happening. And I reached out to the creative careers and they told me that, oh, the CPT authorization is a separate thing from the credit registration. So I think I missed that part and I was really sad about it.
Mhm.
But yeah, so the first internship period, I just wasted my credits. I couldn't get it at all. But the second term, like it was last term, went through all the process correctly and I finally get the credits from my internship.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you had to have like a little bit of a trouble, but you got it in the end, so that's great.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I would recommend you to like attend some, like this kind of like seminar or the workshop, and try to be more aware of like what you have to go through because, I wasn't really carefully, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, carefully
Thank you,
reading through all the things. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Jessica?
Yeah, I completely agree with Reina. The committee members, they're really strict with meeting the guidelines and everything. So looking at the Creative Careers website on internship is really helpful. For me, it was a completely different experience for credit registration. I was applying with less than the required minimum 70 units. So then I had to submit a petition exception form. And so, yeah, I had to basically state out my reasons why and give like a justifying reason why it could contribute to my credit internship and that I was really eager to learn. Especially I was in Indonesia networking with people, so why not, you know? And so, yeah. It was reviewed by the committee members. I cross-checked even though at one point it got rejected, but reviewing it again, they were really graceful, allowing me to resubmit the form. And so eventually I was able to start my internship.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad both of you guys were able to get yours registered. Um, Huge congrats to you guys for that. So in terms of the ins and outs of like an internship experience, I know Jessica's was in Indonesia, so I'm very curious to learn like what the culture is like there in terms of workplace. But what did like a typical day look like for you as an intern at your company? And again, either of you could answer this first.
Yeah, for me, since it was in Indonesia, Bedrock is very different because they mainly speak English, but they still integrate it with Bahasa or like the language there. And so, yeah, it's a very collaborative and research-driven company. They're a brand consultant, so we work with a lot of creative teams, strategies, and so, yeah. Usually they come up from meetings with stakeholders from Indonesian companies, and then we're basically strategizing, okay, how am I going to deliver these digital brand assets with the team?
Awesome.
Yeah, for me, I work remotely most of the time and went into the office once a week on Thursday. And since this happened during the semester, like we have to wake up early and go to school. So my body clock was already set to 8 to 9 a.m. So I wake up really early in the morning and I try to follow the rules of the company, even though I work remotely. So from 8 to 12, like during the daytime, morning time, I worked and had a lunch from 12 to 1 and then got back into work. And I tried to get off around like 4 to 5. And at the end of the day, I always wrote a report for the CEO to review, and they can like keep track on what I'm doing. So I just left a message on the chat or through the email. So I reported what I did. And for the company culture, Handiers is Korean company, so we mainly speak Korean in the company, and we didn't really use English, but like all the documentation was done in English. So I had to, convey my ideas and present my design ideas in Korean, but also document the ideas in English at the same time.
Wow, very interesting. Having to almost do like double work, it seems
Yeah.
like, but it seems very cool. Very a good learning experience for you, which that's awesome. Yeah, thank you both for sharing a little bit about what it looked like on a day to day. Super interesting and super fun. I'm glad everyone else could hear from you both on like what that looked like. Um, so I know you both kind of touched on the networking piece a little bit earlier in earlier sort of questions, but I guess you could speak to like the sort of networking piece in terms of like what that role played in like as you've kind of moved on from that internship experience, but then also like in terms of how you got that internship experience. So like what sort of like key ideas or key concepts have you learned having been an intern at your company in terms of the networking piece moving forward?
Yeah, I can talk about it first. I think the networking is really important. Before this internship, I didn't really realize why I have to network. But I think networking is, even though you're in the different industry with them, you have an opportunity to learn from them and their vision and what they're working on. So my CEO used to be a developer at Amazon, and he's very knowledgeable of the trends, how the world is evolving, like the technology. So he really introduced me a lot of like fast-paced AI developments. So sometimes, like this is a startup and I worked as a solo designer. So I didn't really have a chance to network with other designers, but with other people in other industry. So he sometimes just bring up like an article and just pointed out, hey, like here the AI is like now in this phase, we should implement this. And I do more research on, like, oh, how can we actually do this and what is this? And I think I really learned a lot from them. And I think networking in this company, this is not only just end with this internship, but also it could come back around for the future opportunity. Because sometimes, like you mentioned, oh, I want to introduce you to this another CEO I know. So I think it would be a great opportunity for you to learn. So I think networking with people and building those kind of relationship will help me eventually for my future.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, I completely agree with Reina. I think a lot of us, we face fear before we want to connect or network with other people. And so overcoming that fear first is very helpful. Second, continue to be initiative, curious, and just keep trying any opportunity that you see in front. That's what I learned in my company. If I don't take an opportunity, it's very hard for other people to take it easily. In terms of networking, also, um, networking with other people, when you connect with them individually, they will return the favor that they receive from other people. And so, exactly what Reina said, you are going to connect with a lot of people when you start connecting and investing in networking. But yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate both of your insights on like the networking piece because it's something we definitely advocate for students to get more hold of, especially as you're early on in your time at Art Center, because it's just such a critical piece of you being able to get your internships or get any sort of professional development experiences. Because, talent could only take you so far. Like you have to know the right people. The right people have to know you and to have an interest in the key assets you could develop, right? So that's definitely something I'm glad you both have allowed yourself to take in and as you're moving forward in your throughout your time at Art Center, but then post Art Center. So that's awesome. Thank you guys for that. So moving to the sort of like key skills you felt like you learned or developed a little bit more, or maybe something you had no idea this is something you needed to learn, and maybe this is something you were able to learn from your internship opportunity. So this could be like technical skills or soft skills, whether that be like learning how to write an email, something as simple as that. Like anything you feel like you definitely you grew a little bit more from your internship opportunity.
Yeah, I would say I actually learned a lot of skills from doing this internship. But one of the biggest skills that I learned is the communication skill, I would say, because as I mentioned, I worked as a solo designer, and this company was going through a lot of pivots of their idea. So there were a lot of opportunities for me to present um, my ideas, why I designed it like this, and why did I brainstorm this concept, and that has to be done in front of my team members. And then at first I was very nervous about how what should I say, like how do I convey this? But um, as the time go through and I have more opportunity to keep doing it, I could improve myself on how to present myself more professionally and also like collaborate with team members in this idea. So communication is one of the skills that I learned, I would say. And then sorry, and then the second one is the AI skills because we had very limited resources and people, and it was very early stage startup, so we didn't really have that much documentation and vision. So we had to fully utilize the AI to automate the work. So like use AI as an assistant for us for to help us. So basically, I explored a lot of AI tools, not only like ChatGPT or Claude, but also like visual AIs like Higgsville, like Bizcom, and I eventually made a project, a promotional video with AI. So I think the AI is the biggest takeaway from this internship.
Great.
Yeah, for me, I was working on their portfolio show reel. That's one of the projects I was involved in. So it really required exactly what Reina said as well, communication. For me, I was under the guidance of my supervisor. It was very easy to get drifted into your own type of design, but in reality, you are working for a brand and real clients. And so research was a big part in my process. I learned how to translate research into clear visuals. I was also able to understand how industry grade type explorations were made. At school, usually we don't really see like that much industry professional ready work, but at Bedrock, I was able to see that, and it was really inspiring to see how real brands use their real designs in the real world. But yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you both for sharing that. One key piece I feel like I really want to echo from what you both mentioned is like that communication piece. It's just something we definitely encourage students to develop during their time at Art Center, whether that be with someone from Creative Careers or with a faculty member or with your peers. Being able to articulate your thoughts is really important, especially because, people can't get inside your head, unfortunately. So you need to be able to express your thought process or articulate what your thinking was and your ideations in a way that's easy for people to understand, right? So that's definitely something I am glad that you guys have been able to develop during your time at your internship. But then it's obviously like a really key takeaway from your internship moving forward. So that's awesome. Thank you both for that. So moving on to, was there any like specific project or item or asset that you created or you supported that really stood out to you? And if you could discuss a little bit of it, that would be great. If you can't because of like NDA, like that's understandable, but any sort of like key concepts you could articulate that would be great.
I think for me, it was producing asset deliverables that would be towards their proposal. And so being able to come up with multiple different explorations, ideations that could be pitched to their real clients, that was something that I supported in their projects. I also produced motion assets where I was able to receive their brand identity into the motion. But yeah, overall, it was basically integrating research into my most motion assets.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, for me, I started um ca- should I share the portfolio I put on, or should I just talk
Yeah,
about it?
you could go ahead.
Okay. Well, this company went through a lot of different ideas. When I first started, it was mainly focused on the consumer side. So right now, it's mainly focused on the field professionals. But at first, it was like consumer who wanted to find a plumber or handyman, like someone who can fix their house. But after that, they went through some like challenges, and they pivoted idea into like communication platform and a lot of like explore different ideas, and then they finally landed on the customer management platform for the field professionals. So the biggest contribution I did was basically let me kind of share this it is called it is called Next Pros, but I contributed to explore the ideas how the AI can help field professional to manage the clients and their jobs. So I implemented the AI system here, did some research on competitors, how they are using the AI in their products, and implemented that to our products. And I think biggest thing is the research part, and like Jessica mentioned earlier, turning the research into the visual ideas and the product ideas. So yeah, so I created this visual assets and also the marketing piece. And eventually, I'm still working on some of the marketing videos, but I think I covered a lot of different, like broad the work, yeah, in this company.
Awesome. That looks very cool. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. It's always cool um, to see the actual work, just because sometimes it's like, okay, I know the conceptual idea of what you're talking about, but it's nice to see it, right? So I appreciate that. Awesome. Okay, so we have a couple more questions. One of the last questions we have is any advice you both could share for those that are looking to do an internship, whether it be about the search process, the applications, the networking piece, any advice you could give for any of the people here, and then anyone else you would like to sort of help out in sort of this topic.
I think one key takeaway during my internship was that I realized don't throw your fishing net too small. Throw it large, continue throwing it large. I guess I won't have had the opportunity to be at Bedrock if I did not continue to network with people. We emphasize that many times already, but it's really true. Connecting with people, alumni, connecting with them as well. And also, yeah, just understanding what companies want. I feel like how you can be a big value to them is really essential, especially in this internship process, and identifying what values do you have that would align with their values. And I feel like once you get that idea of understanding who you are, what do you really believe in, and what business could you help contribute to, that would help you a lot better in the internship process.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Jessica. Definitely the networking is one of the piece of advice I would like to give it to students. And I think even though the company doesn't really meet your expectation, like when you actually work, it can be different from what you viewed before you actually get into work. But so for example, I really, try to like I didn't only focus on the interaction and the UX part that I wanted to go to, but also I had to cover, a lot of things like business part or marketing part since it was a startup. But I took that as an opportunity for me to grow as a designer. So I
Mhm.
think kind of you can, if you can go out of your comfort zone and try to explore more like what you can do as a designer, and that will only help you to grow and expand your knowledge in the future. So I think experiencing a lot and also networking with people and try to communicate well about, like Jessica mentioned, your value and how you can contribute to the company is a really great thing to do.
Yeah, definitely agree with both of what you guys are saying. I think the sort of summarization for me is really making sure that you're opening yourselves up for opportunities and connections to kind of catch you in the sense of you being proactive about trying to connect with people, but then also trying to find places that really mesh well with what your skill sets are and what sort of work they're looking for. So that's awesome. Our last sort of question for this part of the panel, and then we're going to move on to Q&A from the students, is I know that you both are still like during your time at ArtCenter, but as you're like slowly approaching graduation, is there anything that you took away from your internship experience, whether that be like the search process, the interview process, that you feel is useful for you as you're approaching maybe like a job search, like post-graduation?
Yeah, I think after this internship, I would definitely network with more people and try to attend workshops to make more connection. And if I actually get into the phase of finding a job, I would ask people like really actively about if there is any job opportunities, even though there is not, I would just like, like reach out to them and ask for the opportunity, and be more prepared about the interview, because I didn't really go through the formal interview this time, but I would definitely do more research on how to, like achieve what I want, the position I want to get. So I do more research and do more network with people and eventually work at the company that I want.
Love that.
I think adding on to that, I think seeing your wait, I'm sorry, I blinked out. Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, so like as you're approaching like maybe post grad job search, like is there anything you took away from your internship experience that you feel like is helpful as you're approaching maybe that part of your,
Oh yeah. Okay.
career path? Yeah.
For me, it would be continue fine-tuning your portfolio, continue fine-tuning your cover letter, how you imitate other people when they do interviews, really excellent interviews, and try to imitate that. I feel like that would be helpful for me after I graduate, perhaps. Also trying to identify what are the brands looking for in the positions that you are looking for. For instance, for me, it would be digital design intern. If I want to be a digital design intern, I would have to focus on maybe fine-tuning my work and my school projects to be more related towards what I like to do. But yeah, that's from my perspective.
Yeah, definitely agree with both of what you guys are saying in the sense of making sure your work is kind of showcasing or emulating the sort of career you want to have, whether that be a specific company or studio you have in mind, referencing the sort of like approach that they have to their work and making sure that you're showcasing that you could, represent that. Networking, again, what Raina's saying, huge, huge component that we definitely want you guys to be thinking of as you're approaching um, your time as an intern, but then also like post-graduation. But that sort of wraps up our panelist discussion. We're going to be moving on to the Q&A. I'm just going to quickly share it because I stopped sharing really quickly for the Q&A. So if any of the students in the chat want to share a question that they have for Jessica or Reina, or for both of them, or for me, and maybe in regards to the internship registration process, please feel free to either unmute yourself or like put something in the chat. Um, if no one has questions, I definitely have a couple more questions I would want to ask, but please feel free to share anything that you want to ask.
One question I have for anyone, I fear I'm I worry about being annoying when it comes to asking about jobs or internships. Like I guess my question is, can you send follow-up emails or like do you have to just sort of feel out the situation? I mean, like how would you sort of get over that? Like, can you ask for an internship multiple times or just kind of cast a wide net to all sorts of different people? Um, could, would anyone be able to talk about that? Like, um,
Yeah. Um, it's completely understandable. Like a lot of people do that. They don't respond to your texts or emails. But I guess giving like a gap of like when you last responded to them and when
Yeah.
kind of have an idea and like know when to respond back. I guess it's pretty ideal for perhaps you send it on Monday, maybe on Thursday you could follow up and say, hey, I was wondering, or I just wanted to follow up and I would love the opportunity to blah, 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 blah. But along the line,
Yeah.
it's like you're not really pushing, but you're also kind of showing your interest because companies love interns who are interested at their role, but not too much to the point it's like pushy, you know?
hmm Okay, so like leave a
Yeah.
few days gap, and then if you don't hear back after the second time, maybe give up.
Yeah, Reina, do you have anything to say about that?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with you. So there, I was really nervous to follow up with my internship at first, like because like I submitted my application, like the question answer sheets to my CEO, and then I haven't heard back like a few days, and then I was very nervous, like I really wanted this job, and then I'm not hearing back from them, so I follow up with them after like 2 to 3 days. but they later told me that you following up with us was very like they can see my interest in this company. Nobody had done that before. And they're actually saying, later told me that that really shows me that like you really wanted to work with us. So that's one of the reasons why they selected me as a designer. So I'm pretty sure, like don't be nervous about that. That's really just really you're showing your interest to the company. And probably if it's a big corporate, then there will be more people doing that. It's not only you. So they already know that like the students are very like eager to work with us.
Mhm.
So I don't think they will find you unknowing. I think it's good things to kind of show your interest to the company.
Good, good. Thank you. Good to
Yeah.
hear.
Um, Thank you both for answering that. If I could just quickly add one thing, I believe that obviously it's important to follow up. I think the approach to asking for internships, though, should maybe come from the perspective of wanting to get to know people, on a personal level, right? Just because, like, from a general standpoint, it's if you don't know someone, you're asking for an internship or a job, it's like, who is this person? Like, why are they asking me this? Like, obviously, like they know people are gonna be trying to reach out to them about opportunities, which is totally normal. But do try to maybe develop more of a relationship before asking for an opportunity. So maybe that's like, can I have like a 15-minute phone call to talk to you about like what your career path has looked like so far, or if you have any insights for me as I'm navigating whatever program I'm in and like wanting to figure out like what my career path could look like. So that's like another way you could sort of like have like a more low stakes conversation with someone that could maybe potentially lead to you asking, like, hey, like, I am actually really interested in pursuing XYZ. Do you happen to have any opportunities coming up that I could apply for or you recommend me for? So that's like another way you could kind of go about that situation. But I definitely want to emulate both of your guys' responses for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Any other questions?
I had a question. Um, I think one of the things that I'm kind of struggling with at the moment is trying to figure out how to build like a cohesive and well thought out portfolio. And I just want to ask, like, how would you recommend I go about making a portfolio that's consistent and looks good for the person who's looking at your portfolio? And like, what should I leave out? What should I include? Just like, what recommendations do you have?
I think in terms of the portfolio, I would definitely recommend you to find a strategy that you want to present. So one of my friends told me before, she, present her portfolio like not just jumping around a lot of topics, but for example, if you're interested in user testing, then maybe include the user testing you did in each project. So like like don't make it like this is not the only strategy, but what I pursuing for is basically to include all the, like user testing in every project so I can present, oh, this end with the user testing. So it's more cohesive and then it's more aligned with what I want to go for. And the second thing is to think about the feelings of what your viewers want to feel. So basically, like, oh, I want to make it um, more, visually appealing, or I want people to think myself as a person who utilize the AI fully, then you should have like an AI project. So I think how you want to present you as a designer to the recruiters or the viewers is really important.
I think adding on to that, it's like in ArtCenter, we're basically, if you're a graphic designer or any other designer, you're basically branding for another brand, right? But in this scenario, you're branding yourself. So it's exactly what Reina said. It's how do you want to present yourself to whoever you're applying to? And if you do have a studio or someone you look up to, try to look at their work. How did they present their work? What did they include and what did they not include? And what kind of gap in the challenge that they're solving? What did they include in their website.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I really agree with that. Yeah, at first, like, I didn't know how to build my portfolio, so I did a lot of research on how does other successful designers create their portfolio, and I just tried to like copy theirs. But like, the more I did, I kind of have my own vision of how I want to do
Yeah.
it. So yeah, eventually I changed it that way.
Yeah, thank you both for that. Thank you, Katie, for the question. I definitely encourage you guys. I don't remember what term you are, Katie, but we definitely have portfolio reviews. I'm not too sure if Jessica or Reina ever participated in that, but that's something we have in typically the spring term. So I definitely encourage you guys to like keep an eye out for that. That's a really great opportunity for you to get a recruiter or designer's perspective. And you definitely could, anyone here could definitely get a portfolio review from one of the career advisors, including myself. So if that's something that's of interest to you, Katie, we could definitely explore that in like an advising appointment or something like that. Um, but we have time for one more question, just because I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. Does anyone have any last
Yeah.
questions? Go ahead, Kai.
Yeah. Excuse me. I want to ask how about the people. You mentioned the like the portfolio review, like uh is it inside the email? Like, I'm so, will we see it in the?
It's typically something that's promoted through email. We do typically have flyers across campus promoting that. So that was last term. It was this last term that happened. So that's something I encourage you to look out for future terms. We won't have it this term, but for future terms, we should have it.
Oh, okay. So it's happened next term. Like,
It happened last term, but it should be happening
oh,
for
I'm
future terms. Yeah.
okay. Thank you. I just look for the like the portfolio review in the like the email.
Mhm. Yes.
Uh, yeah, we have the record, right? Like, um,
It should be available to all
I'm sorry.
students
Uh, okay. Also access through email. Oh,
through email. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. It's so basic questions.
No worries, no worries.
Thank you
Oh,
so much.
May I have one more question for Rena and Jessica?
go ahead.
So I want to ask, so how many um in like the internship have you guys applied until you guys get to the internship?
Well, for me, this internship specifically is from the networking. Um, so like my ex coworker introduced me to the CEO. So basically, like it was just a direct thing that I didn't really like apply for multiple internships. But like before that, even though I wasn't prepared, I tried to like apply like multiple internships before this opportunity. It took me like maybe 50 plus and then I get all rejected. But like this was the great opportunity for me to like I mean like the my previous coworker introduced me to the CEO. So this was, I would say, it's like after 50 times of failure and I got the internship maybe like that.
Yeah, similar to Rena, I also did the same. I got it was based off of a networking, so I kind of got the upper hand as well going to Bedrock. But previously I also did apply to a few companies, but they also did the same thing. But yeah, cast your wide net.
Yes, definitely. Um, Thank you both so much. Just quickly closing out, I just wanted to share some of our information as a Creative Careers team. This is just like our location and our hours and any of our contact information. But thank you both, Raina and Jessica, so much, and everyone who attended. You will be getting a recording up from this panel in an email shortly. But feel free to reach out with any questions that you guys have. moving forward. And this was such a great chat. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. So really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Oh.